Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Complete Free Life and happy Friday to you all. So, the topic that I want to talk to you today about is how you and I, all of us, may be standing in our way of achieving our goals. And whenever I say that, please don't take it as a blame or accusatory way of looking at things, but rather we want to look at it from empowered place of how we could be doing that and how we want to remove it. Because the reason I thought that I would talk about this topic is because yesterday I was doing a webinar together with my fellow coach in Co-Create Humanity, and I've seen a lot of questions coming up from our amazing participants, and a lot of the questions could be summarized in a way that shows that a lot of us get into this mistaken belief that whatever we want to achieve may not be in our control, right? So whatever we want to achieve in life, whether we're transitioning, whether we are changing jobs, whether we're wanting to pursue something else, whatever the goal is, we might be going there, but also we might not be going there simply because we believe that it can't be done because of these and these reasons. And not often I see people recognizing that the reason it can't be done might simply be because we're not allowing ourselves to make that happen. And again, the reason why we do that is because we believe that those things are not within our control. And we don't recognize that the reason why we're not achieving our goal might actually be depending on us and how we might be standing in the way of achieving that goal. So the way that I want to describe the standing in the way is, imagine there is this where you are now, and imagine there is the destination of where you want to go. And there is this giant wall standing in between. And we believe that giant wall cannot be removed. And the reason why we believe that it can't be removed is because we believe that it's not in our control to remove it. Even though if we dived into it deeper and deeper, we may realize that the giant ball is put there by us with our own beliefs and convictions of why that ball should be there. But of course, we don't recognize it because we may not have really reflected on this enough. That's why we believe that wall cannot be removed, and therefore it's not even worth going to that goal. Now, today in this video, in this episode of the podcast, I want to exactly show you how you have put that wall there, how you can also remove it and achieve your goal. So that's the one that's standing in the way I mean. Now, I've seen people do this, they stand in their ways in two ways, including me, obviously. So one way is because of our own convictions about ourselves. And the other way is because of our convictions about other people. I will give you examples specifically on both of these occasions, and you will see whether you can relate to this or not. And you have difficulty seeing, or you have you see this but you have difficulty doing something about it, or you feel like you can't really handle this anyway, whatever the reasons might be coming out, don't worry, please come to coaching with me. I will help you get over that and remove that wall. So let's dive into the first one. And the first one is when we are putting that wall between our current situation and our goal. We're putting that goal by believing something about ourselves and our convictions. So having those convictions about ourselves. And the way it can look like, the way you recognize it is when you believe certain things to be true about yourself. right? So for instance, you may think, well, I would like to be an entrepreneur, but I don't really have what it takes to do that. Or I would like to have another job, but I don't really know what it takes, or I don't want to go through that, or it will be hard. They will not be hiring me, or I'm not up for it, or I don't have those qualifications. I don't have those experiences, or my experience won't be valued as much, or whatever these convictions that you have about yourself and your abilities are the walls that you're putting between you and your goal. In other words, you with your own beliefs and convictions are standing in your own way of getting what you want. Right? And whenever I say that, you may be thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. How could I be standing in our own way? So don't do that to yourself. Just be curious and ask yourself, how would you remove it? And we'll get into that detail of what to do, but don't start panicking as to, oh, I'm standing in my way, I'm not a good person, or I shouldn't be doing this, but I am. How could I? Don't do any of that. It's not helpful. I've done it, it's not helpful. So that's why just recognize that this might be the way that your own convictions, your own beliefs might be creating that wall that actually you don't want to be creating, but it's there because of so many different beliefs that you have gathered over the years. And therefore, you're not allowing yourself to go to your goal. And by the way, the other big conviction that I see a lot, and I've seen yesterday in the webinar as well, is that people always use their past as a reason why they can't do whatever they can't do in the future. Right? And that's a big wall for many people. People use their past as an indicator, as a marker as to what's possible and what's not possible. But we know now that that's not the case. We don't need to use the past if we don't want to. We always want to ask ourselves, why does the past matter? And the answer can only be to learn a lesson. It's not to use it to not move forward. We want to learn the lesson from the past, and the rest we can also leave it there. The past, whether we use it or not, is optional. And if you keep using it, ask yourself why you keep using it. What if you just decided whatever you want to do from your future rather than from your past? So this would be how you could be standing in your own way by creating that wall between you and your goal. Now let's look at the second category that I talked about, which is how you might be doing that by thinking that you can't achieve your goal because of other people, because of circumstances outside of you, right? So this could be looking like, I can't get this promotion because this person will not allow me, or I can't get this life that I really want because I will not have enough money, or because of this, I don't know, other person, or because of my family members who will not understand me, that I will leave this job and do something else. And therefore, I'm not able to transition, for instance, right? You see how you are using them as a reason why you cannot go to pursue your goal that you want to. And even the external circumstances were true, right? Even all of those were true. The question always is, do you allow them to take power over you and your decisions, or you don't? Because you can always, of course, use them as an excuse for not to go forward in your goal, but is that a good reason not to go forward, right? Because whenever you say that, well, because of them, I can't really do this, because of them, I can't really pursue what I wanted to, because of them, I can't really have this career, then what you're essentially saying is that I'm not powerful. I don't decide over my life, they decide. And whenever we put ourselves in this position, of course, we will not only be pursuing our goal, we will be suffering a lot more in the current place where we are. Because we have abdicated our responsibility, we have given up our responsibility to other people, and we're saying we are powerless, or we're feeling we're powerless. And whenever we're feeling we're powerless, we don't tend to like our lives, we don't tend to like anything else, and we don't tend to have motivation to actually continue working because we feel like, what's the point anyway? So that's why, as you can see, that wherever you are and whatever your goal is, whatever that wall you're creating by using other people as a reason why you can't, still means that you might be standing in your own way. Because whether because how you perceive the external circumstances and how you interpret it to make it mean, this decides, or this defines whether you go to your goal or you don't. So that's why don't use them as a reason why you can't go to your goal. Don't use them as a reason why you can pursue and decide what you want to do, because still in the end, it's on you. And as long as you keep using them as a reason why you can't achieve something, you are not likely to like your current situation either. So don't do that to yourself. Take that power back, take that responsibility back to say, yes, I had this conviction or belief that because of them, I can't do X, Y, Z. But what if that's not true? What if I can go through this and I don't want them to be my thoughts about them to be standing in the way of achieving the goal, right? So I just wrote it down, some of the things here. Let me check my notes. So the other one that I see a lot, that we believe that we don't have work-life balance. And this work-life balance, we believe, is not there because of the system, because of the boss, because of these people. But again, why are we believing that we're not in charge of our work-life balance? Why are we believing that we can't set our boundaries? Right? So whenever you use that as a reason not to go to your goal, you will understand that whatever you're using as a reason not to do something, you are likely be suffering from the consequences of that already in your current situation. So that's why that feeling like you don't feel like in charge of your work-life balance could be another wall that you're creating for yourself that you shouldn't be, and you don't need to. So now let's talk about what to do about this. How not to stand in your own way, right? So first, bring to your awareness and find out what are the ways that you might be standing in your own way. Find out all of those beliefs, all of those convictions about yourself and about other people that you're holding to be true. Bring all of that awareness and write it down. Once you recognize that these are all of your constructions about yourself and about those people, decide how now you want to think differently about it, how now you want to take charge and actually decide what you want to do about it. By asking yourself useful questions of how could I be in charge of my work-life balance? How it all depended on me and not on anyone else. Right? How could you enjoy your life and your work now without letting others influence it? The same about you yourself and your own convictions as to how could you think about yourself differently than you were until now. So for instance, how could you be thinking about yourself in a way that you are powerful, you are capable, you are fully in charge of getting to the goal that you want. And once you find out all the answers to that, then you start implementing that. Right? So one of the things that I've seen oftentimes that people talk about that I didn't mention now that I see in my notes, one of the things that people talk about often is that I don't know, or I have doubts and insecurities, and therefore I don't really know if I can achieve my goal, right? But again, these are the convictions that we have about ourselves. What if we're the people who can and are able to deal with doubts and insecurities and still achieve those goals? What if doubt and insecurity and fear is not a problem? Right? So think of different ways of how you can remove that wall and dismantle that wall. And one of the ways you could also do is just think of yourself a concept of who you are now, the person who does not let those doubts and fear get in the way of you achieving your goal. The same is you are now the person who is in charge of that work-life balance. You are now the person who knows how to set boundaries and also stand by them despite the fear. Do you see what I'm saying? So instead of believing that these are the walls and I can go through them, ask yourself, how could you go through them despite all of the difficulties? How could you make this happen despite all the challenges that you will encounter? Right? Because whatever the obstacle that we believe is there in achieving our goal, that obstacle is put by us, our brains, our mental constructs, whether consciously or unconsciously. And if we put them there, it also means that we can remove them. And the best way that we can remove them and the sustainable way we can remove them is starting to recognize that we have put them there and we are capable of removing them. And we're capable of going through them without blaming anyone else, without blaming ourselves, without using other things, other circumstances as reason why we can't do it, but recognizing that we have all the power, all the ability, all the feeling of in charge to be doing that. And once we start recognizing that power, that wisdom that we have within us to be able to remove that wall, then imagine what else is possible for you. Then imagine how else could you live your life where you don't make any of this wall mean a big deal. Where you just like, yes, I know that this is what I did, and now I know how to remove it. Because you can always remove them by questioning them, by changing your convictions and beliefs about them, because convictions and beliefs are all thoughts as well. And you can always look at them and choose them differently if you don't like the ones that you have now. And once you know and trust your ability to be able to dismantle that wall, then you will always know that you can dismantle any other obstacles that you have in your way, any other obstacles that you can handle without feeling like you are powerless, without feeling like you can't do this or you can't be secure or whatever. So this is what I really want for you, truly, that you recognize your power to remove that wall, whatever the wall you've created, remove it, and knowing and trusting that you can get to the other side and get to the goal, and you will make that happen. Because all of the goal, whether you achieve it or not, depends on you. Even though our brains want to say, well, it doesn't really depend on me, it depends on so many things. But if you go through that knowing and believing that it all depends on you, imagine what results could you have created, what goals you have achieved. And whatever the beliefs and convictions we have, they can be optional. We can always change them and use the convictions that serve us. So be mindful of what you're using currently, how you might be standing in your way, and how you can also remove that wall if you wanted to. So, my dears, I really, really encourage you to reach out to me and to discuss and get coaching on this wall that we might have created on our way to our goal so that we can get the goal as soon as possible and start setting even more goals. Because once we learn the ability of removing this wall that is ourselves in our constructed mind, once we know how to remove that, we can do anything else in life, whatever we want. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll speak to you next Friday.